Hi,
Right.
Bonnie.
Hello.
So this is Bonnie Tweedy Shaw. She's one of the artists that we work with regularly at the Charles Bruce Foundation. Wonderful, fantastic artist. I didn't ask you to do this. Oh, and there's the nose of her dog. Oh, it pokes in the corner there, and that's Chumley in the back on the back of the chair.
Chumley.
Oh, pretty cute. Um, do you have any of your artwork like right around your hands that you could hold up?
Ooh,
Ooh, that's pretty.
a carousel horse.
Yeah.
Here's interesting a book.
Oh, that's your
This
book,
is
one of your books.
backwards.
Yeah.
So
So
yes.
you do those individual pieces of art like the carousel horse, but then you also
Mm-hmm.
illustrate stories, is what your book,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you didn't
Yes.
write the story that,
I don't write the stories, I just illustrate them.
ah. Have
And
you ever
that's
made a story without typed to letters, words? Did you ever make a story that was just pictures?
well, a lot of times if I'm drawing a picture, just say this carousel picture. There's a whole story you can make up in your mind that somebody went to the park and saw the carousel and they wanted to ride it. There's all kinds of stories you can make up if
And
you just
another
have a
word for
picture.
carousel would be a merry-go-round,
Yes.
right? So maybe some people have gone to see the merry-go-round, and that's those horses and other things they can ride up and down on the.
And if you've ever seen Mary Poppins, there's always a carousel horse in Mary Poppins. But pictures are telling a story. So when we do a book, we do pictures that also are telling the story that goes with the words that the author had written. So when I'm illustrating, I feel like I'm part of the author's story because the illustrations are telling a story. Once in a while, they can add a little bit more to the author's story by adding, time of year or flowering trees or something just to change the story up a little bit just by adding in the picture.
That's a good point. So if I wrote a sentence that the little girl walked to the park and you drew a park full of snow, I would
Yeah,
even have to say it was wintertime.
right. Yep.
And if you drew the little girl wearing a bathing suit, then I'd think, well, there must be a pool at the park.
Unless she's running in the snow in her bathing suit. And
Which
that's a
then
whole
might need a bigger
story.
story to explain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a whole story in itself.
um, so if the anthology is going to be a collection of stories or poems or pictures made by people up to and through high school. So little kids, medium-sized kids, and bigger kids, all the way up to if you're over 18 but you're still a senior in high school or still in high school, you can still participate in the kids anthology that we're putting out, or the young people's
Okay.
anthology. So what we'd like young people to understand is if they want to draw single pictures, let's do that first. Say they just want to enter a single picture to go into the book. What should they think about for their picture they're going to draw ahead of time?
Well, that's what I always think of when I'm drawing is like it has to be telling a story. Your picture, what do you want it to say? What angles do you want the, what excitement do you want to draw to your picture? It all is part of the illustration is the story you're telling.
So sometimes, actually, most often, you draw animals. You like
Yeah.
animals better than people. Well, you don't like necessarily, but to draw animals, right?
Yes.
Uh, so obviously, these pictures, if someone wanted to draw cars or buildings,
Oh yeah.
right, they could draw anything they want. It doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be, right? Um,
No.
Now, if someone wants to draw their own story, um,
Mm-hmm.
how do you pick when you read something that someone wrote? How do you pick which thing to draw?
Well, that can be difficult sometimes. When you're reading an author's story and you want to illustrate it, you have to read the story over and over again until you find what's the most important thing the author is talking about. what needs to be illustrated. So that's when you're bringing in your illustrations to somebody else's story, you need to know what the story is saying and what's the most important part. And that's what you illustrate.
So if someone was going to write a story that had a fire truck coming up to a house that was on fire and a
Mm-hmm.
ladder going to the window, um, and a mom with a baby in her arms, you could draw one picture or you could draw more pictures, right?
Right. You can, depending on how you want to illustrate this, you can have, of course, you'd have the fire. That's an important thing going on. But maybe you want to emphasize the mom and the child, and you want to, so how danger, so you might draw that, or you might draw just the truck and maybe the front of the truck coming and the excitement of the lights flashing. It depends on, what story you want to say with it.
Now, I write stories and you draw stories for a lot of writers, but you've drawn some for me. And in the time we spent working together, I learned that you really liked to draw animals. So I started writing my stories and putting animals in them just so you'd have something to draw that pleased you, right?
Yes. Well, that's nice.
Right. But so one of my favorite pictures you drew for us, and I don't have it to show, but maybe if we have a live one of these, we can do that another time, was a boy with an ice cream truck, which were two things you really don't like to draw, people in trucks. But then I put in a story about an iguana,
Yes.
just so you could draw an iguana. When you're drawing something you're not as crazy about drawing, do you like that less?
Not, no, sometimes it's fun to push your boundaries and try to do something you're not really good at. I have to get lots of reference pictures. If I'm drawing a cat, I don't need too many reference pictures. I know what a cat looks like, and I'm pretty sure, I can make that cat look like a cat. But if it's a truck, then I really want to get reference pictures, and I want to use straight lines, and I want to use same thing with the building. I've done people's buildings, and that's really kind of, to me, almost boring because it's just bricks. You have to have straight lines, nice straight lines, and they're important. But then I've also seen illustrators do things with just kind of sketchy lines, and that's can almost tell a story too.
Yeah. Um, so when you talk about a reference picture, what does that mean? Do you go walk around and look for buildings, or do you look them up on the internet, or what do you do when you need a
Well, I
reference?
usually use the internet because it's so handy. You can just look something up and you get a picture, so you don't have to, drive to Cincinnati to see something that's in Cincinnati. You can use the internet to reference things, and it's really helpful. Now, you don't always want to trace something. Sometimes that helps you get where you want to go, but if you look at your picture and you draw your own thing from that picture, then that's your reference. That's
Yeah. So have you ever drawn anything that doesn't exist? Like a alien or anything
oh
that's not real?
yes, I love dragons. Dragons are one of
Oh.
my favorite things. But the thing about a
Wait a minute,
dragon,
dragons aren't real?
well, to some people they are. But what's fun is to draw a dragon that looks has a horse, sort of like a face like a horse, sort or has a lizard-ish look to it. So you bring things that sometimes I make a cat eye out of the lizard. Here's cat
Hi,
out
Chumley.
of the dragon. I like that eye, that crazy eye that Chumley might have, and trying to put that into my dragon.
Chumley just really looked annoyed at you.
Yeah.
Don't put me in your story.
But see, you can make a really scary dragon using cat eyes.
That's adorable.
I like to, if I'm drawing something that it's make believe, it's fun to make real things using real eyes, using a real horse's face to make that long look of a dragon face. So kind of incorporates
Oh. So you
little
kind of use
realism.
real animals to give the dimensions to your.
Mm-hmm.
Critters.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. That's
And
really,
it makes them look like they could be real.
oh,
If
that's
if
really cool.
you
When did you start drawing?
oh, probably as soon as I could put a crayon in my hand, I started drawing. But first grade, I remember my teacher, Mrs. Manchetti, had drawn a painting of a big lamb on the wall. And I just, as a kid, I redrew that and redrew that because I just love that cute little lamb face. And I remember people, oh, you're such a good draw. And I thought, oh, it's just because I redrawing that lamb. And
Yeah.
that started.
Yeah. And now you're a professional artist. You're doing a mural at a library. You want to tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that?
Well, I'm working at the Bosler Library in Carlisle. They're opening a new, interesting secret garden section of the Bosler Carlisle, and I'm working on a mural that incorporates the colors of the rainbow and some animals, of course, animals, and using books to take you on a trip through this 6 foot tall mural.
Wow. So a little kid who's thinking, well, I'm just a little kid who draws, they may end up growing up to be a big kid who draws, like you.
Well, and the thing is, you don't have to be an artist for a living. You don't have to be an artist, what people say is an artist. You just have to express yourself, have fun with it, draw for your own self and not for, it doesn't have to be something you want to do when you grow up. It can be something you do forever as you grow up.
It's really neat. Well, thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for your time. And now, if kids want to join us or young people want to join us on it, my daughter hates it when I call her a kid, but maybe that's because she's 38. But if young people want to join us and talk to you in person, would you be willing to do another one of these with us sometime? And then they might be able to show
Sure,
you their art and have some questions.
absolutely. I think it'd be good.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Bonnie.
You bet. And say goodbye, Chumley.
Bye bye, Chumley.